Welcome to Royal Secrets. After months of silence and legal shadowboxing, a judge has finally spoken. And what he's revealed, it's sending shockwaves through the British establishment. This isn't just another court case. This is the case, the one that could dismantle Prince Harry's entire legal strategy in the United Kingdom. The one that could change the way the royal family handles security, privacy, and power. For the first time, the truth behind Harry's RAVEC battle is exploding into the public eye, and what's been hidden for so long is finally being dragged into the light. Let's rewind for a moment. Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, former working royal, husband to Meghan Markle, and the most controversial royal figure of the 21st century, launched a legal war against the British government. At the heart of this war, his fight with RAVEC, the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures. Harry argued that when he stepped back from his royal duties in 2020, RAVEC unlawfully stripped him of the taxpayer-funded police protection he once enjoyed. He said he was still a high-risk target, still in danger, still deserving of the kind of elite, round-the-clock security provided to top royals. But RAVEC didn't agree. Neither did the Home Office. And so began one of the most secretive, high-stakes court cases in modern British legal history. Unlike many of the royal scandals that play out in public, splashed across headlines and chased by paparazzi, this case was different. It was handled largely behind closed doors. Much of the evidence was sealed. The media was locked out. And for a long time, the judge said nothing. But now, that silence has shattered. After months of deliberation, a UK High Court judge has issued a public ruling. And in that ruling, shocking revelations, long-hidden documents, and a clear, powerful verdict. The judge's ruling, released after enormous public pressure and legal maneuvering, confirmed one thing that Harry's team likely never wanted the public to hear: the decision to downgrade Harry's security was lawful. It wasn't personal, and it wasn't political. In fact, the judgment makes it clear that Harry was given a fair opportunity to argue his case behind the scenes, and he lost. RAVEC, made up of senior civil servants, counterterrorism experts, and royal officials, had compelling reasons for downgrading his security. What's more, the judge emphasized that Harry knew what was coming. He had been briefed. He had access. But when it came time to prove his need for taxpayer-funded protection, the evidence just wasn't there. But here's where it gets really intense. For months, social media buzzed with conspiracy theories. Was the court hiding something? Was the government shielding itself from embarrassment? Was the royal family pulling strings behind the scenes? Now we know. Yes, some evidence was sealed, but not for scandalous reasons. It was kept private because of national security. Because it contained operational details about how royalty and VIPs are protected from threats ranging from stalking to terrorism. But even without those sealed documents, the judge said the public evidence alone was enough to support the ruling against Harry. And that's where the real damage to Harry's public image might lie. Harry's lawyers argued that stripping him of security was arbitrary, that it endangered him and his family, that it was unfair given the threats they face. But the judge's response, direct, scathing, and final. He said that Harry's circumstances had materially changed since leaving royal duties. That he had voluntarily stepped back from the inner circle of monarchy. That RAVEC's decision was reasonable, logical, and fully within the scope of the law. In simpler terms, the royal system didn't abandon Harry. Harry left the system and the benefits that came with it. One paragraph in the judge's ruling is already being called a bombshell by legal experts. It reads, "The claimant, Prince Harry, is no longer a full-time working member of the royal family. His role has shifted, his exposure to certain risk profiles has changed, and the level of taxpayer-funded security afforded to him was re-evaluated accordingly." That decision was neither unlawful nor irrational. Not only was Harry's claim rejected, the judge basically said it was based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how the system works. A system Harry used to be at the center of, but chose to walk away from. Almost immediately, reactions poured in from across the UK and beyond. Some praised the judgment as a victory for fairness, that taxpayer money should not be used to protect someone who no longer serves the nation. Others, particularly Harry and Meghan's supporters, accused the court of political bias and institutional betrayal. Some online voices even alleged that the judgment was punishment for Harry's explosive memoir Spare and the Netflix series that dragged royal skeletons into the open. But legally speaking, the ruling is clear. The judge has spoken, and unless Harry appeals on extremely narrow legal grounds, it's over. This case isn't just about police protection. It's about power, legacy, and identity. Harry has spent years trying to redefine himself outside the royal machine. But again and again, he's run into the same problem. The system he left behind won't give him the privileges without the responsibilities. And this judgment just hammered that truth home in legal stone. The courtroom may have fallen silent, but behind closed doors, Prince Harry's legal team was in chaos. Insiders say that after the judge issued his final ruling, members of Harry's legal circle were visibly stunned. They had gambled everything on the belief that the court would agree with their narrative that the decision to strip Harry of his taxpayer-funded police protection was not only unjust, but unlawful. But instead of vindication, they were handed a carefully worded legal rebuke. Multiple legal analysts have noted that the judgment wasn't just a loss for Harry, it was a strategic defeat. A moment that pulled apart the foundation of his legal logic and left very little room to appeal. So what went wrong for Team Sussex? And why were they so sure they could win? Sources close to the case believe Harry's team made one crucial mistake. They underestimated RAVEC's legal authority. RAVEC isn't a political body. It's not a group of royal lackeys. It's an independent executive committee, made up of counterterrorism experts, senior civil servants, intelligence specialists, and high-ranking police officials. It's the same group that protects everyone from the Prime Minister to foreign dignitaries visiting the UK. Trying to prove that RAVEC acted irrationally in reducing Harry's protection was always going to be an uphill battle. But Harry's team thought that if they framed the issue as a royal vendetta, an extension of what they see as institutional mistreatment, they could sway public opinion and, perhaps, the court itself. But the judge didn't buy it. In fact, he went out of his way to state that the decision was not political and had followed a thorough, fair process. This alone makes it one of the most significant legal judgments against Prince Harry in recent years. What makes this even more explosive is what we've now learned about the secret RAVEC meetings that took place before the case ever went to court. Declassified documents redacted but recently released reveal that RAVEC convened multiple high-level sessions in early 2020 and again in mid-2021 to discuss Harry's protection. At least 2 intelligence briefings reportedly warned that Prince Harry no longer qualified for automatic high-level threat status due to his departure from full-time royal duties. While the threats against him were still taken seriously, they were deemed to fall within the scope of private security mitigation, not taxpayer-funded police protection. In short, Harry's personal circumstances had changed, and so had the risk assessments. This is critical, because it undercuts one of Harry's strongest claims, that the state owed him police protection even after his royal exit. Behind the scenes, Meghan Markle was reportedly closely involved in developing Harry's legal strategy. According to sources familiar with the Sussex legal team, Meghan pushed for an aggressive, high-profile approach. She believed that by framing the issue as part of a broader, security for all narrative, they could gain traction with the public and increase pressure on the government. There's even speculation that she wanted to position herself and Harry as victims of systemic neglect, a continuation of the themes explored in their Oprah interview and Netflix docuseries. But while that strategy might have worked in the court of public opinion, it collapsed in the court of law. The judge didn't rule on emotion. He ruled on precedent, on policy, on national security procedures that don't bend to media pressure or celebrity narratives. This loss could have devastating ripple effects on the other legal battles Harry is waging across the UK. Remember, Harry isn't just suing over security. He's also taken on the Daily Mail's parent company over alleged phone tapping, The Sun over hacking claims, the UK government again, in a separate but related data security case. These lawsuits all lean on one major idea, that Prince Harry has been unfairly targeted, neglected, or exploited by institutions with power. But now, with a High Court judge ruling that RAVEC acted lawfully, the momentum in those other cases may shift. If Harry is seen as a prince trying to rewrite rules he once upheld, the sympathy factor might start to wane even among former supporters. If there's one group that wasted no time reacting to the judgment, it was the British tabloid press. Within minutes of the ruling, headlines erupted. Harry loses major court battle over police protection. Judge says royal exit came with consequences. The Telegraph, no special treatment for Prince. High Court slams down Harry's claims. Daily Mail, Harry wanted it both ways. The court said no. The Times, even more centrist outlets, like the BBC and The Guardian, took a firm tone. They emphasized the weight of the legal precedent and the clarity of the judge's statement. Social media exploded with hashtags like, and even high-profile commentators like Piers Morgan and Dan Wootton weighed in, calling the judgment a moment of reckoning for the Duke of Sussex. For a long time, Prince Harry has carefully crafted an image, part rebel, part reformer, part royal exile. But this court loss has started to chip away at that image, at least in the UK. In the eyes of many, it suggests a man who wants to leave the royal institution but keep the perks. A man who rails against the monarchy's grip on his life, while simultaneously demanding the protection that monarchy provides. Even some of his supporters are beginning to ask, is Harry a reformer or just a prince in denial? And what of the royal family? As expected, Buckingham Palace has remained silent. No official statement, no comment, just the sound of legal victory echoing through a courtroom that Harry never wanted to lose. But make no mistake, behind the gates of Windsor and the walls of Clarence House, they're watching. Because this judgment isn't just a win for the institution, it's a reminder of the limits of rebellion. The judge's ruling wasn't just a legal defeat, it was a financial earthquake. With the court rejecting Harry's bid for UK-funded police protection, the Duke of Sussex now faces the staggering cost of financing his own security, both in Britain and abroad. And that figure, it's no small number. According to security experts, providing full-time, round-the-clock protection for a high-profile target like Prince Harry and his family, especially when traveling between the US and the UK, can exceed £8 million per year. That includes trained armed guards, secure armored vehicles, surveillance countermeasures, cybersecurity experts, intelligence assessments, travel logistics. And unlike state-sponsored protection, private security forces lack automatic access to secure intelligence briefings from British police or MI5. This means Harry's team may never know if a credible threat is looming until it's too late. In other words, even at £8 million a year, private security still doesn't match what he gave up. So where is the money coming from? Reports suggest the Sussexes are using funds generated from their multi-million-dollar deals with Netflix, Spotify, and Penguin Random House. But here's the twist. Some of those deals are reportedly under pressure, and in some cases, not performing as expected. Their Spotify deal famously ended early. Their Netflix deal, while still active, is rumored to be undergoing serious restructuring. And Harry's memoir Spare, though a commercial success, came with a hefty advance that must now be followed by equally successful follow-ups if they want the cash to keep flowing. Now, with security costs mounting and legal fees piling up, even a multi-millionaire prince might begin to feel the pinch. After the judgment, speculation immediately turned to one question: will Prince Harry appeal? Technically, yes, he can. But legally, his options are limited. To succeed on appeal, Harry would have to prove that the judge made a legal error, not simply that he disagreed with the outcome. That's a very high bar. And while some insiders say Harry is furious and considering next steps, others suggest his team is divided. An appeal would be expensive, time-consuming, and worst of all, might keep the embarrassing headlines alive for another year. One former royal legal advisor put it bluntly: this case was always a stretch. Appealing might feel satisfying, but the odds are against him. And the public appetite for this fight, it's disappearing fast. Meanwhile, pressure is also coming from across the Atlantic. In the United States, Harry and Meghan's brand is built on a careful image of resilience, victimhood, and royal independence. But legal losses like this one put that image under stress. Media outlets in the US, from People magazine to The View, are beginning to ask more pointed questions. If Harry left the royal family for peace and privacy, why is he still waging such public battles for privileges linked to the monarchy? That tension is building, and it's forcing the Sussexes into a crossroads moment. Here's where it gets even more dramatic. Some sources say this court loss could prompt Harry to reconsider his long-term future and possibly look toward a limited return to the UK. Not as a full-time working royal, not as the old Harry, but perhaps as a part-time figure, willing to support the crown in certain diplomatic or charitable capacities. Why? Because being official again could unlock many of the protections and privileges he's now fighting so hard to regain. But the problem? The palace may not be interested. King Charles, Prince William, and senior courtiers have reportedly made it clear, you can't have one foot in and one foot out. You're either in the royal fold or you're not. So unless Harry makes a full return something, Meghan reportedly opposes, it's unlikely the system will change just to accommodate him. Through it all, the royal family has remained characteristically silent. No statements, no interviews, no social media posts. According to royal insiders, King Charles has adopted a never complain, never explain approach to Harry's public attacks and legal drama. He believes that the monarchy will outlast the headlines, that time and dignity will win out. And so far, the strategy seems to be working. While Harry is battling in court, the rest of the royal family is appearing at charity events, hosting state banquets, and projecting calm continuity. To many in the UK, the contrast is striking. One side is suing the government, the other is serving it, and that difference is beginning to sway public opinion. Polls conducted after the court ruling show a noticeable dip in support for Prince Harry among British adults. In a recent YouGov survey, 62% agreed with the court's decision, 58% said Harry should not receive police protection if he's no longer a working royal. Only 18% felt Harry was being treated unfairly by the UK government. Even among younger voters typically more sympathetic to Harry, the mood is shifting. There's growing fatigue with the lawsuits, the drama, and the sense that Harry wants privileges without the duties that come with them. And that shift could spell trouble not just for Harry's legal prospects, but for his legacy. In many ways, this court case was about far more than just police protection. It was about the evolving definition of royalty, the battle between tradition and modernity, and the personal war Prince Harry is fighting not just in courtrooms, but within the legacy of the institution that raised him. This judgment didn't just shut the door on one of Harry's legal demands. It symbolized a broader refusal. The crown will not be reshaped by those who walked away from it. In legal terms, the judge drew a clear line. If you're no longer an active member of the working royal family, you do not enjoy the automatic protections that come with that status. But in symbolic terms, it sent shockwaves across Buckingham Palace and Montecito alike. This decision sets a precedent not just for Prince Harry but for any royal who may choose to step back in the future. RAVEC's process has now been publicly validated. Any royal who leaves must know, the protections you once had were based on your duties, not your birth. That's a tough pill to swallow, especially for someone raised in the shadow of the throne. This isn't just about safety, it's about identity, rank, respect, and in many ways, it's about a monarchy trying to preserve itself by ensuring that even its former princes are held to the same rules as everyone else. So what happens now? With this legal defeat behind him, Prince Harry faces a harsh reality. His Sussex brand, once built on global goodwill and royal mystique, is now in survival mode. The Netflix documentaries, podcast ventures, and media appearances once rode the wave of public sympathy following Megxit and the Oprah interview. But now, that wave has crashed into the cold, hard shore of legal reality. Critics are growing louder, supporters more cautious, investors more skeptical, and through it all, Harry and Meghan must decide, do they double down on their outsider narrative? Or do they attempt a quiet rebrand, one less focused on the royal institution they left behind? Because right now, their biggest asset, their royal past, is also their greatest liability. Behind palace walls, there's no gloating, no champagne popping, just quiet calculation. King Charles knows that every public battle Harry fights reflects directly or indirectly on the monarchy. But he also knows something else. Distance works. The more Harry pushes back, the more the monarchy gains by staying silent. The crown doesn't need to win the argument in public, it just needs to endure. And Prince William, he's reportedly even more resolute. Sources close to Kensington Palace suggest William believes Harry has made his choice, and that the institution must now move forward without him. It's a cold strategy, but an effective one. Because the more Harry tries to prove he was wrong, the more the royal family reaps the quiet reward of restraint. Insiders say Harry is still weighing his options. There are whispers of a potential appeal, a new lawsuit, a renewed effort to negotiate private security access on British soil. But each of these options comes with risk. Another legal loss could further erode public support. Another public battle could increase the strain on his family. And another rejection from the crown could leave him more isolated than ever. He is, quite possibly, at the most critical crossroads of his post-royal life. Will he keep fighting, or will he pivot, rebrand, try to win hearts instead of courtrooms? That choice could define the next decade of his life. This case wasn't just big in Britain, it went viral globally. Across the Commonwealth, public opinion has been split. In Canada, Australia, and South Africa, opinion columns are questioning whether Harry's personal struggle reflects a broader breakdown in trust between the Crown and younger generations. In the United States, where the Sussexes reside, the tone is shifting. Early allies are starting to question the constant drama, and royal commentators, once dismissed as gossips, are now seen as truth-tellers by a growing audience. Even political figures are weighing in, with some suggesting this case underscores the challenges of ex-royals trying to leverage status without accountability. The Sussexes' media machine will no doubt try to reframe this loss. They'll talk about broader safety issues. They'll argue that this fight was about fairness, that the system is broken, that the process is flawed. But the ruling is clear: Harry lost. Not because of politics, not because of bias, but because the system did what it was designed to do: evaluate risk objectively, allocate resources responsibly, and apply the law equally. No amount of PR spin can change that. What this ruling symbolizes is the beginning of a new era, one where royals without titles, duties, or responsibilities will be treated as citizens first, not monarchs in exile. For Prince Harry, this is a turning point. He can no longer straddle both worlds. No longer fight for royal treatment while living a post-royal life. No longer claim victimhood while launching legal offensives. If he wants to move forward, he must choose a path. And so must we, as the public, as viewers, as people fascinated by this unfolding royal saga. Because at the heart of this courtroom drama lies a deeper question, one that cuts through politics, family, and fame. As the judge closes the book on Prince Harry's explosive RAVEC court case, we're left with this. In a world where royalty is no longer inherited, but earned through duty, can a prince without a kingdom still demand the crown's protection? Or has Harry's final bridge to the palace already gone up in flames? Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe, share, and turn on the notification bell for more upload.